Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. J, and this is video number 2. So Homeschooling 102, and this one is all about balance. Okay. Another one of those kind of fundamental questions that I get with homeschooling is about how do you balance homeschooling, or kind of what advice do you give to people, in particular moms, when it comes to homeschooling? And that is really, I cannot express enough the need for balance. And what I mean by balance is to not let homeschooling become the only aspect of your identity, especially as an individual, but as a wife and a mother. Please do not let homeschooling become the end all and be all of your relationship with your children. And if you are married, the nature of the relationship with your spouse. I have seen this happen. I have seen this play out in front of my eyes more times than I can count. The dissolving of marital relationships because, the homeschooling parent, a lot of times the mom becomes just so obsessed with homeschooling. That's all they think about. That's all they talk about. That's all they care about. When the husband comes home, it's, oh, this for homeschooling. Oh, buy this. Oh, let's talk about that. Oh, little Johnny didn't do his work, or little Sally, did that today. And that becomes what, every conversation is just about homeschooling. And then for that parent-child relationship, that it's gone. They just become teacher. I know I really started to cringe a little bit because I started to see on social media, people would be like, oh, we're going on vacation. How can I make this a homeschool assignment? Why? It's a family vacation. Why is that about homeschooling? Or it would be, they wanted, like, I saw a lesson plan for Calvin and Hobbes comics. Come on, guys. It's a comic. Why, kids, they're not allowed to read for pleasure, because if they read something for pleasure, the parents say, okay, well, they like this, so let's make this into a unit study, and let's make this into that. And then so, there's no balance, because it's like the kids are always at school. I know even when I lived at school in college, it wasn't always about classes. It wasn't always about studying. It was, I still was able to get away from my studies. And when your life becomes just homeschooling and your children's life become just homeschooling, then they never get away. And that doesn't foster the balance that's needed, because your children, they're not going to be students their whole life. And when all you do is focus on you as teacher and them as student and them as homeschooler, it takes away their identity as an individual. I see this even with people as their children get older. Everything becomes about transcript and portfolio. Oh, I'm going to have my child do this because it'll look great on a transcript. Oh, I'm going to have my child do that because it'll look great in a portfolio. And it's like, can they just be kids? Can they just be tweens and teens and adolescents? Can they just do something just because they want to do it? Not because they want it for their portfolio, not because they want it for a transcript, not because it'll look good on a college application, but just because that's what they want to do. Can they just go out and have fun? Can they just go out and be a kid and not have everything tied down to their schooling? And you as a parent, your kids are not going to be kids forever. And if your entire identity is solely about being a homeschool mom, what does that do? What does that set up for your relationship with your spouse? Because when the kids leave, which should be the goal, what are you going to talk about if you have not done anything to invest in or build that relationship with your spouse? What's there going to be to talk about or to think about or to be about when the kids are gone? or if there's a reason why your kids may have to go back into a traditional school situation. Sometimes it may be a good reason why they're going back, or a reason where you all are in agreement and you're excited about them going back because there's a new educational opportunity or something like that. But they may have to go back into a traditional environment because the primary homeschool parent may get sick. It may be really hard to homeschool if you're battling, an illness, or you are in a major, accident, or, something like that, where you're, literally disabled, or you're, in a coma somewhere or something like that. If everything was just, we're homeschoolers, we're homeschoolers, we're homeschoolers, and that was all there was, and then you're not a homeschooler anymore, then what? Because there was no balance. And so don't lose sight of the fact that you're a parent first. And your primary responsibility is to be a parent, not to be a homeschool teacher, not to, that's not your primary responsibility. Your primary responsibility is simply parenting. And don't make all of your parenting become homeschool unit studies. Sometimes you just need to just sit back and talk to your kids as mom. Some things you just teach by living. I'm all for, yes, you can do cooking classes. There's no problem with cooking classes. But sometimes you just, need to teach your kids how to make biscuits the way you make biscuits, or make a pie the way you make a pie, or make a bed the way you make a bed, wash the dishes in a certain way. You don't need a lesson plan or a unit study for that. Teaching your kids about relationships. A lot of times that's not to come out of a book. Yes, we all had health classes when we were young, and yes, we want to give health classes to our kids, but when it comes to the nitty gritty of, dating and, bullying and relationships and all that kind of stuff, that's not teacher, student. That's mom, dad, parent imparting into their kids, and every parent does that. This is not something that is just a homeschool thing. And I would say, whenever you're dealing with things that every parent deals with, deal with it from the perspective of being a parent, not necessarily from being a homeschooler. Have some balance. And don't let your identity as a homeschooling parent become the only piece of your identity. And I get that, a lot of us who are bloggers and vloggers, that's really the only part of us that you see. Like, people that know me on other social media sites, like Facebook or Instagram, they see so many more aspects of my life than people see on my YouTube channel, because my YouTube channel is really dedicated to homeschooling. But that's not all of who I am. I have hobbies. I have things that I do for fun. My kids have hobbies. My husband and I, we just, we are, roll dog, ride or die together, 100%. We have a lot of hobbies outside of our kids, outside of homeschooling, is just about us. We care a lot about our relationship, and we put into our relationship completely, because we're like, all the kids gonna be gone in 10 years, but we together till the end, and we're gonna have a wonderful, happy, loving relationship all the way through, even when these folks is out the door. So we have to invest in this right here, this relationship, above everything else, because this relationship was before the kids. When they move out, we still gonna have this relationship. So this needs to be nurtured, and this needs to be fostered as well. And then my identity, just as an individual, a person. I still have, I never stopped working, so I still have a career. And I know that that's not true for all homeschoolers. Maybe some people, decided not to go into the workforce. They took a break from the workforce. And even if you decide not to go back to the workforce, you're still an individual. You still have, you still should have hobbies and ideas and pursuits and things that you do as an individual that bring you peace and joy and happiness, and that you love to do just because you love it, not out of obligation, not out of as a homeschool mom, but just as a parent, a woman, or a man. Make sure you have that balance, because yes, homeschooling is time consuming. Yes, homeschooling can be at times all encompassing, but it can't be all of who you are. It can't be all of what you do, because that creates a dynamic when you stop, when you are trying to get your satisfaction out of your kids' education. That's when you become like dance mom, homeschool version of dance moms, where everybody can see you're crazy. You are insane, and you think, oh no, I'm just supporting them. No, you're not. You're getting some, kind of quirks and gimmicks and all kind of stuff out there that's not healthy, because you're getting something out of this education relationship that should not be there. So that's another reason why you need balance, so that you don't drive your kids crazy, and so that you don't become a crazy lady or man. So that's a big part of it. Don't lose sight of yourself. Yes, homeschooling is important. Yes, your kids' education is important, but you are also important, and you have other important relationships, and you as an individual need to be able to breathe and grow and all that kind of stuff. And your kids have an identity outside of being just a homeschool student as well. And that can't be their whole life, because they're not going to be a homeschool student forever, hopefully. So you want to make sure that you are allowing the entire family to have balance in relationships and in everything that you do. I hope this helps. This is Dr. J, and I'm out. Bye-bye.